Tonight on Debate Amongst Friends, NBA Finals Game 1 and 2 review, plus a look at tonight's Game 3 in Cleveland. Trump and the Philadelphia Eagles are at a standstill as both have declined both invitation and visitation, and so much more starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to another edition of Debate Amongst Friends, live on YouTube on January 6, 2018. We're happy you decided to join us this Wednesday evening. I am host, the Professor John Gotti, and always by my side, he's no eater of pins, but he'll definitely rock your world. It's Doc Ocean. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. Ready to rock some worlds.
Well, I figured I won't go Styles Clash because I didn't want to show you too badly. So, I decided to make you be the Bray Wyatt of this operation, sir.
Much appreciated. And I guess you would be the Joey Styles?
I guess. I did punch out JBL, so,
There you go. There you go.
We got ourselves a pretty quick show. We're gonna try to knock this out quickly tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because we all know that Game 3 is tonight. The Doc and Prof connection is trying to enjoy it. We thought about doing a live reaction video to it. Maybe we'll do it if it goes beyond 4 games. But for the time being, we just want to enjoy the art of basketball. But before we get ourselves started, we do have ourselves a guest tonight. Coming out of the blue corner, he is the guy who got that thing I sent him. It's the Duke. How you doing tonight, sir?
I am good, gentlemen. How are you two?
I'm doing amazing. You got that thing I sent you. Things about...
And I'm doing wonderful.
Always a pleasure to be here with you, fine gentlemen.
Absolutely. Like I said, we're gonna try to, breeze through the show real quickly. We all are desiring to watch Game 3. So, in all else said, let's get this clock started and let's start the show. So, the big news coming out of, I guess, DC and Philadelphia, and I guess the NFL worldwide, the Eagles has been disinvited to visit the White House, to visit the president, Donald Trump. Before we go in deeper, I guess we'll just start off with the reactions when we heard this news, and we're going to start off with the Duke.
Sadly, I was not surprised in the least. I actually kind of expected it, which is a really bad thing to say, but a really, I guess, true thing to say these days. We were having a conversation a while back, the Duchess and I, and the professor jumped in for a little bit, but we were basically talking about the office of the president itself and how, no matter who sits in the seat, the office of the president is what we essentially should view it as, not the individual person who happens to hold this job for 4 to 8 years. So, if you, again, I understand that people have their reasons, politics, personal, whatever. And this is by no means a new occurrence in the past couple years, but I still feel like, if you can't show respect to the president of the most powerful country on the planet, then, who are you?
I think when I first heard about this, I thought about that old segment that we used to do, care or don't care. And I kind of threw this in the didn't care section. Um, I think that teams have chosen to go and visit or not visit in the past, and I don't really understand why this was a big deal. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Warriors declined, or a team prior to that declined to go. I think that people decline to go all the time. The Patriots, I believe, at one point declined, or some of the Patriot members. Like I feel like this kind of happens every year because not everybody is on the same page when it comes to politics. Of course, you have Democrats, you have Republicans. I feel like this may happen every year where certain people are like, hey, listen, I don't, I don't agree with this particular person's viewpoints, and I'm not going to go. So I kind of felt like this was just kind of blown out of proportion because it was the president saying he didn't want them to come anymore. And it's like, okay, that's fine. It's not a dishonor or not a disservice or not disrespectful because they didn't want to come anyway. It's kind of like uninviting someone to your birthday party who wasn't going to come anyway. So it's kind of pointless and kind of stupid. And I hate that our president was even involved in anything so juvenile. That's where, unfortunately, our world has come to, our country has come to, where our president is. Your thoughts, sir. I don't even know. I can't even believe this showed up on ESPN. It's a mockery. What a mockery of the country.
That's just going to lead to us just not having these kind of things happening anymore. Which, you know what? At the end of the day, it's probably better for business for us to not to do that. But that's just my quick thoughts on it. But I guess let's dive into this a little bit, and we're probably gonna dive into some Duke It Out subjects real quickly, which is why we have Duke on here tonight. But then there was a story about Eagles players getting on Fox News because they're basically gassing up the whole tension. They're talking about how Eagles players was kneeling and they wasn't really kneeling for the anthem, but they kind of took that and took it completely out of context. I mean, what was your thoughts about that part, or did you have a chance to see that within the concepts of the news articles that happened within the past 24 hours?
I actually didn't. I would be deeply curious, excuse me, to see what the Eagles players were saying. But, to the point that you brought up earlier, and I kind of had time to think about it, in a lot of ways, it kind of is like the WWE, but that's just politics in general. I mean, if you think about it, anytime that you see a campaign, no matter who's running for what office, they are playing political theater, as it has been called, to try to rally as many like-minded minds to their side as they can. And, let's just really be honest about it. Trump, as a president, has never stopped campaigning. Almost everything that he does is playing to his base. And so, that's why I said I wasn't really surprised in the whole exchange, because I kind of figured that the Eagles weren't going to come. And I kind of figured, especially after Golden State last year, that he was going to do something that is, probably out of the norm, or at least out of the norm for a president to do, in order to rally his base back over to his side on the whole protest situation. So, again, I wasn't really surprised by it. I can understand why it made news, because the media is just obsessed with Trump. But again, I wasn't surprised.
Definitely no surprise over here. I think that with everything that's happened over the last 2 weeks, not only with the president, but also with the flag rule changes, I think players are kind of probably feeling cornered. It's almost like they may feel like they have to do something to kind of, I don't want to use the phrase, but clap back, I guess, a little bit. Because you think about it, you're having your rights taken away on the field now, where you were using this as a platform, not for something that had nothing to do with being an American, but more being an African American in this country. And you kind of taken the African American part out and said, hey, we're all Americans, but not all of us are getting treated as Americans. So now they have to use other outlets to speak, or quote unquote misbehave, depending on who's reporting this, but they have to misbehave in order to get their points across. So, I wasn't surprised with the reporting, of course, by the media, but ultimately, I kind of expected it, because they have to reevaluate and kind of change their outlook. They got to change their methodology. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Well, here's $1 million question, though. And again, I always take it back to, let's take feeling out of this and look at it objectively. At what job are you allowed to protest without your employer saying something to you?
It depends on the company.
And that is very true, but that's what I'm saying. It's a company stance on it. And so if the NFL wanted to take this stance on it, then they have every right as a company to do so. Now, nobody's saying that you can't go out and protest. They're not telling the players that you can't protest. They're just saying you're not going to do it on our time.
Well, but see, that's where it's kind of different, because they are saying that you can do it on their time. You just can't do it on the field, because a player can still not come out on the field and kneel, but they can just not come out of the locker room, which to me, if I'm a fan in the stands and, I'm out there and I've just watched the intros, and this is what I tried to explain to the professor. It's like, we were at the game. The players are going to come out after the intros. The pyro is going to go off. The music is playing loud. The announcers announcing the names. And then the players are out there, like they're on the field. They're throwing the ball around or whatnot. And then they say, hey, now we're going to stand for the national anthem. And you see players walking back to the locker room. That's going to be ridiculous. Or guys just say, hey, don't introduce me because I'm not coming out until after the national anthem. So, it's still going to be a problem. There's just not going to be kneeling on the field. I understand what you're saying. As far as the personal matters, when you think about it, the only reason most of us stand for the flag is because we were taught to as kids. Has nothing to do with us wanting to be or show patriotism. We're just doing it out of routine, out of process. When somebody says, hey, please stand for the national anthem, it's almost like we've been brainwashed to kind of just stand up. And most of us from a young age didn't even know why we were standing. We were just doing it because it was a part of the morning routine. As we got older, we understood that this was supposed to show patriotism towards our country. But when people in our country are treating us as if we're outsiders, I could understand someone saying, hey, I can't stand for that. And that's where it's starting to get a little fuzzy because where it was supposed to be for taking up for people who are being basically abused, harassed in a country that you're supposed to be standing for, we're getting knocked down where people should be help picking us up. And that's pretty much what the whole protest was about. It had nothing to do with the military, had nothing to do with anything else, but a country that wants you to stand with them. Every time we've tried to stand with them, we have been knocked down. And when we try to sit or kneel, we've been told to stand up. And that's what this whole protest is about. Has nothing to do with anything else. So, well, I mean, that's my stance on it.
And I understand that. And like, I had a different viewpoint on it because I was actually taught what standing for the pledge meant as a young kid. Maybe it's, because I asked too many questions in class, or I don't know. But, I came up with that understanding. But even then, I understood the sentiment behind the protests. The whole problem with it is that the NFL at the end of the day is still a business. And just like with any other business, you are worried about your public image. You are worried about how you are perceived. And so even if I support this, I still at the end of the day as a business have the obligation to make money in order to stay in business. And if this starts hurting my business, then I have to take some sort of action against it. And I think that that's kind of the corner that the NFL has been backed into, because here, yes, you do realize that your players are your bread and butter. That's how you make your money. But at the same time, if people are not paying in the same manner or in the same frequency to see said players or to, patron your goods or whatever else, then you have to go, okay, which one is more important to me?
Well, it sounds like there's definitely some differentiating opinions between here. But the last subject when it comes to this, and we're going to start going into the hardwood, but we're going to preface that with LeBron James was actually asked about the situation. And this one was kind of unique because he really didn't get the chance to really absorb the content like how we have right now today. We had pretty much over a day to let things mull over and generate our thoughts. But LeBron James was going up for his pre-game press conference the day before the game, which is tonight, of course, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. Make sure you watch it. But cheap plug, Scott, make sure you get the check. But he was asked that as soon as he sat down, and he probably had about a minute or two to be able to generate his thoughts and try to convey some kind of comment about the situation. So, gentlemen, the last question I have for you is, what was your thoughts about this? Did you feel like this was fair for him to, as the face of the NBA, to be asked about something about the NFL in so, little time of preparation? Or do you think it's foul because it's just, okay, well, and they also referenced the tweet that he the comment he put on Steph Curry's tweet the previous year when they won, when they decided not to go visit the White House. Is this fair or foul, gentlemen?
I'm going to go ahead and call fair on this one. And I say that only because when the NFL players started protesting and they said that they are protesting for all African Americans or Black Americans, however you want to label it. And to that extent, you have now opened up the floodgates to every African American in the country. Like, I had people straight up coming up to me before I even knew what was going on, asking me how I felt about it as a Black American, because here you are supposed to be representing all of us. And I feel like it was probably a misstep in wording or not. I'm not sure. I don't know, again, what the original intent was. But again, you have already shown in your tweets, your actions, and previous comments to the media that you support it, even though you're not involved in it. So I don't really think that you can then be mad when someone asks you about it later on.
Professor, did you want to give an opinion on this?
Oh, I just call it foul because I mean, had he had a chance to absorb it a little bit, maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour at least, like maybe he could try to generate some things, but he was basically just going on the spot. Now, while I applaud him for being able to articulate himself in a way that, people are not going to misconstrue what he's talking about, and having people say the unmitigated goals and, things becoming blasphemous, I think he did a good job, being put on a spot like this. But I feel like, and Doc and I talk about this all the time, players being put on the spot either immediately after games to give them the reaction, and they're so high on their emotions at that point. But I mean, I call it foul just based off of that stance, though.
I mean, I think the media questions in general most of the time are foul. I mean, we say that he didn't have time to prepare, but ultimately we don't know what his PR people have done. And they may have gotten wind that a reporter might ask that. They may have prepped him in this situation. LeBron is a very powerful person. He's quote unquote, the best player, the best basketball player in the world. I think his people, his camp, they wouldn't let him go up there like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they've pre-screened the questions that are even allowed to be asked of LeBron. So in this particular situation, I mean, it's definitely foul for them to ask because it does put him in a interesting position. But ultimately, I mean, I think as a professional, once you are in the spotlight, and this is as an entertainer or an athlete, you're automatically kind of jolted into the spotlight. So you have to be prepared for everything. As far as, your personal life, going to like the grocery store and picking up a newspaper, that reads something, you have to be careful what you pick up to read. So having tact, but also carefully thinking out your words and your phrases. I mean, of course, I give them all the props, but I mean, ultimately, it's always going to be foul because the reporters are asking it, and it's always going to come off as unexpected. But I'm pretty sure LeBron's thought about it. He's seen it. He's human, so I'm sure he probably watches TV. I'm sure people have talked to him about it. But of course, I do credit him for the answer.
I just want to add a caveat to that, real quick. I completely 100% agree with Doc. It was something that I had talked about previously where, I was saying that as a public figure, you kind of are held to this higher standard. Is it unfair? Sure. But do we do it? Of course. Because, once again, you're LeBron James. You have become the superstar in your own right. And even coming into the NBA, you were held as a superstar. And at this point in your career, I am sure that you have been asked all manner of questions. And I would hope that at this point in your career, at the age that he is at, that, you've grown and matured and you can handle these questions with some tact. But again, I also don't feel like any question necessarily is off limits unless it is something that is deeply personal. And at that point, I if I were LeBron, I would have just told him like, hey, that's not what I'm here to talk about. If you want to get with me offline or some other time, we'll try to work that out. But I'm here to talk about the game and, let's push on with that. So I do appreciate how he handled the situation because I was actually quite impressed with his answer. But again, I don't necessarily fault the media for asking him because you've already made your stance known.
This is true, and it's just one of those things that and Duke and I talked about it, just how, and even Doc and I talked about it to a certain extent as well too, just how the media is becoming more and more like a TMZ in their approach to, getting the news, versus just having a little bit more tact and questioning patterns.
And that's fair, man. But, that's the news in general.
Yeah, that's their job. I will say that. I mean, It's interesting because I mean we know that's their job. I mean sometimes it does seem ridiculous and outlandish, as you would say. I mean it's absolutely ridiculous, some of the things that they report on. But I mean if they don't report, they kind of lose their job, and that's the part that it's a kind of a caveat, kind of a catch-22 for them, where they have to report on these things. Like that's a hot topic. It's kind of like us. Like if we didn't discuss this right now, like what kind of podcast would we have? What kind of following would we develop? So I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that they have to do, and that's where it gets kind of tricky.
I definitely will agree. Finding that balance between, being basically being a paparazzi news channel and being a news channel to actually deliver news. I mean, I'm pretty sure eventually one day we're going to have news articles about, the Greek freak farting in a restaurant, and, it's going to be a 15-page article.
I mean, that's quite possible. Here's the thing. That's just the development of the media these days, because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have had a TMZ. No one would have been interested. But, due to the advent of reality TV and everybody wanting to know what's going on with their favorite celebrities or, public figures at all times, it has opened up this doorway for us to just be able to invade other people's lives at will. And, it's kind of where we are right now.
Doc, anything you want to add there?
No, I think that's pretty much it for me. I just agree. I just think that the media is just really like everybody else, just out there trying to keep their jobs.
Yeah, and perhaps that's just another subject that we could probably talk about, and maybe Duke and Duchess can invite Doc and Prof on, and we can talk about the advantageous behavior of the media base one day.
Advantageous, indeed.
But before we go into our next subject, we're going to allow the Duke to leave because we're going to get ourselves onto the hardwood. And let's talk some basketball. But before the Duke leaves us, Duke, it's your time to get your promos for your show out.
Word. So, we're still on season 2. Took a little hiatus to, work on some technical issues, but we are coming back with a vengeance. So stay tuned. Check us out. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. Still don't have Twitter, so you have to carry a pigeon me. However, Duchess is working on it with her sparrows, so that might be up here soon. But yeah, also go on and check out our new website at dafdukeitout.com, and you can stay up to date on everything that we have going on over here on our side of the world.
Absolutely, and as always, sir, we always appreciate you coming on to the show and providing your insights to it, and looking forward to see what the Duke of Pigeons and the Duchess of Sparrows have to come out with next. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Hey, I appreciate being here, man. And yo, guys, stay frosty.
There you go. Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sir. So let's talk hardwood. We have Game 3 coming up tonight, but let's review the first 2 games. The game that the Cavaliers should have won, and the game that the Cavaliers wasn't going to win either way you look at it.
But should they have won game 1? I mean, even though he got the rebound, I mean, that's the big news. J.R. Smith gets this rebound and doesn't put it back up, thinks that they're ahead, and, meme galore.
Well, and that's the funniest part. Like, no one's talking about George Hill. They're finally talking about the George Hill missed free throw part. But, they was in position to win this game pretty much towards the end of the fourth quarter. They had it. Yeah. They had the lead, and they blew it away.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I also think that, people are getting on J.R. Smith, but as I posted, I mean, the Cavs had a timeout left. I mean, anybody could have took that timeout. Anybody on the court, and the coach could have took the timeout. So, I mean, you can't just blame JR for this when anyone on the court, anyone could have called a timeout. Any of you guys.
Oh, I completely agree. But the problem is, there has to be a scapegoat for games. And if it's
Oh,
not
definitely.
LeBron
I can
James,
agree with that.
and if it's someone else on that Cavaliers squad that's not named LeBron James, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna jump all over it. I mean, there's the J.R. Swift challenge, which A is hilarious, but B it just shows like everyone's just quick, like you know, they're calling it the biggest blunder in finals history, in which I think that's a complete over exaggeration. Not to mention, as
Yeah.
soon as game one was over, the media is basically trying to make us garner sympathy towards, the king and the land. I know Dutchess hate that name, the land for Cleveland. But like that's the only thing that I've been hearing between game one and game two is how much sympathy everyone needs to have for LeBron James. Oh, he's doing too much. He averaged 50 points. Well, A is only one game, so of course he got to average 50 points. But
Right.
I mean, he brought his team there. They shouldn't have been there. They should be happy they got invited to the dance.
That I can agree with because you already know my take. I still feel that the Rockets should be in this series.
I still feel like the Rockets and the Celtics would have been a much better series. It would have been engaging. It would have been basketball.
Yeah, it definitely would have been. And I mean, like I said, I'm trying to get over it. I definitely am, but it's just been it's tough when your team was cheated. And I think people started to kind of experience that with the officiating these particular last two games, where people were saying, "Oh, hey, look at the refs calling these terrible calls," but it's like, I mean, that's what they do. That's what they've been doing. And that's kind of why Rockets fans are complaining. I don't think Celtics fans can complain as much, but I mean, if they were, that's what they would be complaining about. The officiating. It's been something to desire.
I can agree with that.
If we can put it lightly, something to desire. We would love it if, hey, call it down the middle. Call a foul. Don't, and you can tell that there has been an issue because the refs have been late all playoffs with calling fouls because they're so scared. I feel like they're worried. Like, was that a foul? This is going to go on that report. But it's like, yes, it was a foul. And I feel like at this point, they've lost their confidence. And I said that during game one.
Are you saying that the referees for the National Basketball Association has all turned into Roy Hibbert? Is that what I'm hearing right now? Because A, I agree with you, and B, I wouldn't even say that they were just doing terrible and they were been late. They had just been absolute trash. Like TASLEBRON trash.
Wow. I mean, I don't want it to be that way, but I mean, that's the way it just comes across. Like, think about it like this. A guy goes up, gets like hammered, and then no call. And then like 5 seconds later, there's a whistle, and I'll give credit.
That sounds like James Harden right there.
I mean, hey, if the whistle fits, but you think about it also, just look at what happened with LeBron. I'll even say LeBron he got mollywopped one play and there was no whistle at all. And that's surprising. But it's like you can't call it because you missed a call 5 minutes ago on the Warrior sideline. So now you're just playing it to be even, to make sure it's fair. But it's like, oh man, you missed a really, really terrible call. And now all hell is breaking loose.
I can understand that, and I would probably one up with you. The most egregious call in these finals so far was the Steph Curry left-handed three-point shot that was called out of bounds on the Cavaliers because they forgot to call the frickin' foul, so they effed up right there. So to make up for it, they decided to give the Warriors the ball back by saying it was out of bounds. So of course LeBron James does have a point to get upset about that. But at the same time, y'all fouled the guy on the three-point line.
This is true. I mean, and that's where it's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing. I think the referees do have to be a little bit more. They have to just be more consistent. Just call it for what it is. Be precise. I know you've mentioned on several occasions throwing out the technicals. Don't be scared. Throw them out there.
Oh, don't get me started on technicals. 'Cause I felt like LeBron James should have been tossed out in game two. Actually, in both games for the playoffs, because he has been whining, yelling at the refs, and all this jazz. And I'm like, but Draymond's going to get teched all the time because of bad reputation. Like,
Right.
I think that there's an issue when it comes to the enforcement of technical fouls in the NBA. And yes, Adam Silver, Doc and I always say he's doing such a great job, but that is one part of the game that we have had a constant complaint about over and over again, where superstar players have been getting in the faces of these refs and not getting teased. This year was a little bit more differently because it was certain star players. But it needs to be more consistent. That's been an issue.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know exactly, what it is that needs to be changed, but I mean, and I know that, Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson were talking about the foul where a player pump fakes, the Kobe rule, the pump fake and then lean into the player and shoot. But it's like it's grown and evolved into something, a comedy.
It has.
It's like watching a drama performance. Like I was joking with someone saying that, NBA players in the off season must take up, drama classes, acting classes, because that's what it's all about these days. Like they're going in and just acting like they're not being hit. They're flailing their arms, but it's so perfect that as a referee, I can understand you not being able to get through that. But the thing is, if you're going to believe it on one play, you almost have to believe it the entire game.
Well, I don't think they believe anything at all because it's basically been a roller coaster ride. Like, I'm pretty sure people are just watching the games just to see how badly the referees do now. It's not even about the art of basketball anymore. It's about how many calls they're going to blow throughout the game. And, we talk about turnover ratios for players and turnovers issues for teams as general because, it tends to get over 10, sometimes in the 15s into the 20s. But the referees blown calls, and I don't even have the stats right now, but I could go off the top of my head, it's definitely over 10 throughout the game. It's probably even more than 20 throughout certain games. I mean, the game 7 for your Rockets against the Warriors is testament of that.
That was terrible. And I've been on record to say, the Warriors got away with so many moving screens. And I guess that's the part that just got me so mad because we were winning both game 6 and 7. But with the moving screens, I mean, there were so many, I couldn't even count. So, of course, it's like, you're cheating us. I mean, there's a moving screen directly in front of our bench. Like we're yelling, we're protesting it. And it's like, you're doing nothing about it. Why are you allowing this to happen? I haven't seen it against the Cavs yet, because I'm sure they'll probably get the call. And I don't think that the Warriors have had to use that against the Cavs yet. But that's a major issue. That was a major issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're gonna have to see what's gonna happen for tonight's game, to see how they're gonna try to play. Someone asked me after game 2 was settled, will the Cavs be able to break out with game 3? And I said it depends on the ref.
Well, I think that the refs are going to try and get the Cavs a win. And I mean, I know that sounds bad. People are going to be like, "Oh, you're just a hater." But I mean, the refs are going to try to extend this to at least 5 or 6. But I just don't know if the Cavs, although we're not going to jump into this role player debacle that they're going through, because these guys are NBA players. They're NBA players, so they have talent. If they go somewhere else, they'll they'll be good. So let's just say, Isaiah Thomas wasn't good with the Cavs. He was okay with with the Celtics, but now he goes to the Cavs and he's terrible. Kevin Love was getting the 2020 over here in Minnesota, but now he comes to, to Cleveland, he can't make a shot. George Hill was probably averaged about anywhere between 12 to 15 points, probably 7 to 8 assists per game. He gets to the Cavs, can't make a free throw at the end of the game. So, come on. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. But let's not continually rag on the referees, because we could do that literally all night, ladies and gentlemen. Literally all night. And the Duke was sitting here watching me watch this game, game one, in fact, and I've been having correct calls. The reactions had him in tears laughing, because I'm just like, I don't believe the referees are really, reffing this game this way. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And even the big controversial call, which was the block charge, it was a blocking foul, but no one wanted to really admit that. Even what's his name, the guy in charge of all the referees, even said that was a charge, and I'm like, well, you need to be fired, because that's not a charge.
Hey, again, it's like, what can you do, when the referees have lost confidence in their calls? And that's where, I'm saying, like, it's clear. It's very, very clear. They've lost confidence. They don't know, and that's sad, because these are professionals. Just like these are professional basketball players, these are professional referees. So it's like, these guys are here and they're doing the best they can, but they have lost confidence in their ability almost to see the game and call it down the middle, because they're probably getting potentially, hit from every angle. The NBA is like, come on, guys, you got to get it together. You got the players arguing on the court. You don't want to get them thrown out, because you don't want to mess up the series. You don't want to be the reason why, little Jimmy's favorite team loses. But it's like, you have to do your job. And I'm pretty sure that, the people in Vegas are probably watching the referees closely also.
I will also agree with that. And first of all, little Timmy needs to understand that sometimes you lose in life and there's no participation trophy.
Without question.
But, I completely agree with you. There really isn't anything what you said right there that I can disagree or play devil's advocate on. It's just a tragedy that this is the, NBA Finals that we have to deal with. This is literally going to become another asterisk for LeBron James for his legacy. Like, this is going to be another freaking pass. And it ticks me off, because he has 4 straight passes when it comes to his final losses. Like, when do we stop doing this?
Well, it's interesting. I think that, who was it? No, it wasn't Skip Bayless.
Shannon?
No, it wasn't Shannon. I think it was somebody else on Fox, though.
Nick
what's
Wright?
his name? No. Colin Cowherd.
Oh, Colin Cowherd, yeah.
He bounces back and forth so much. It's so hard to keep up with him and how he feels about LeBron. Like, there are certain times where he's, a big advocate of LeBron, but then there's other times where he's kind of like, oh, LeBron stinks. And it's like, it's so hard to keep up with him. But he was one of the main ones saying, like, he couldn't give LeBron a pass for, losing this game. And the thing that's really getting me is that, listen, LeBron is scoring between 30 to 50 points a game. I'll give LeBron all the credit in the world. He's scoring, he's playing defense, he's doing everything he can. And I guess that's what makes his teammates look bad. But if that's the case, you would say the same thing for the Houston Rockets. You would say the same thing for, the New Orleans Pelicans. You would say the same thing for some of these teams that don't have 3.5 superstars on their team. You know what I mean? I'm still going 3.5. And I actually had a interesting conversation with that. You give KD and Steph the nod, but that 3.5 comes from Draymond and Klay Thompson. We don't know what they can do by themselves. So they get 0.75 per player. Not a full one. not a full superstar, but 0.75, 3/4
That is hilarious.
of a superstar. So that makes up 1.5. Um, but LeBron doesn't have that. LeBron has on the Cavs. It's more of 2 3/4, because he's got himself, and then everybody else kind of makes up the other, quarter, 1 1/4. You know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of rough. But I mean, when you think about it, I mean, this is a team sport, though, and again, these guys are professionals, so I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. But let's get ourselves towards the actual games themselves. What did you think of Game 1? What was your high and low point for it?
I think, Game 1. I think my high on Game 1 is that the Cavs came out and showed that they weren't scared. I did, appreciate that and understand that, and I was happy that they were competing. Of course, the bad part is they lost the game because of kind of a foul up, on everybody's part. That was the major takeaway. I think the Warriors are playing their game. They came out, they did what the Warriors do, and that was really it. And I think Steve Kerr does a great job. What an adjustment, throwing JaVale McGee in Game 1 and 2 just to give him some minutes, throwing some other guys in. And then, of course, I know we're about to move on. I'm going to give you your chance. But, throwing JaVale McGee and some other guys in to kind of change the strategy and the rotation a little bit, it's perfect. It was so perfect. Beautiful, actually.
I actually would agree with you. The high point, actually, I was gonna say the one thing that people always talk about when it comes to these Warriors in the finals is Steph Curry not showing up, and the fact that he is so far the front runner, other than LeBron James, as the series MVP. That's a huge high point. He's. I don't even want to know if he's elevating his game, but he's definitely performing on the biggest stage of them all. And I'm not talking about WrestleMania, folks.
Hilarious.
But, he's cooking. The chef is actually sitting there cooking. So that's a major high point. Of course, the low point for me is it just still has to be the refereeing. There's so much that could have happened that could have determined the outcome of the game. And it's a shame that that this is going to be our finals. And I mentioned it before. But I just can't stop, ragging on the refereeing about this because it was just terrible. But that was my high point, low point for Game 1. But let's go into Game 2, sir. What was your high point and low point for that one?
JaVale McGee again. I think him coming out, he started out 4-for-4, 5-for-5. He had some great defensive plays where he was one-on-one with LeBron James, one of the best players in the NBA, and he handled himself very well. The Warriors came out and played their game. And I didn't even get to the part in Game 1 where you had the excellent reads of a Cavalier player trying to take out a Warrior 3.5 star by the guy who cost them the game at the end, quote unquote, almost taking out Klay Thompson. We didn't really talk about that. We didn't talk about that, and he came out and still balled out. And apparently he has a sprained ankle, but it doesn't look like it. He's hungry.
Well, apparently, a sprained ankle was nothing to play with, but then again, Drake has been eating a lot of L's lately. Oh. But it was true though. But I mentioned that that was going to be a determining point for the series if they was to be able to successfully do it. But apparently J.R. Smith has been known to just not do things the right way. So he half masked that one. He half masked the final play of the regulation. And this is our results. I mean, we'll have to see what happens when they go to the land, which is tonight, and it's going to be happening in about another hour. But I mean, it is what it is.
I think that they're gonna come out and play. They're gonna come out hot, and they're gonna, I would say I would expect one of those ridiculous 12-2 runs by the Cavs, but it won't amount to anything. And I think the Warriors are gonna steal this one in Cleveland, and then Cleveland's gonna come out and win the next one, and then the Warriors to close it out at home. And I went on the record saying I didn't think it was gonna be a sweep. I thought it was gonna be a 5-game series.
Oh, I'm still having my brooms out. But real quickly, let me give my highs and lows. I'm actually going to agree with you for game 2. JaVale McGee was exactly what the doctor ordered. And I don't mean Doc Ocean friend. But the energy that he provided at the beginning of the game just set the tone for everything else throughout the game. The Cavaliers didn't get that close to cut down that deficit throughout the entire game. It was just nothing more than Warriors. And then Steph Curry just started shooting like he was his MVP years. No one could stop him when he's shooting like that. And that bomb that he did over Kevin Love at the end of the shot clock. I mean, that's one of those finals defining moments right there.
I agree.
My low point was honestly the entire Cavaliers team.
That's sad. Now let me ask you, it's your low, the entire Cavaliers team. I know we always say we don't want to give LeBron that pass, but I mean, I think today is an anniversary of AI stepping over Tyronn Lue. I mean, does Tyronn Lue have anything to do with this? I mean, maybe this is bad juju.
Absolutely not. In fact, I'm going to give another gaudy prediction. When I say that Steph Curry is going to step over someone tonight after hitting a three in their face. Or he's going to break their ankles a la James Harden this year against the Clippers and hit a three-pointer on them. That's going to happen tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to suck the oxygen out of the room. The entire land crowd is just going to put their heads down at the feet. There's going to be salt tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Mark my words. Don't think that John Gotti's losing his mind. Don't think that he's just saying it because he's a hater, because he decided to be critical of LeBron James, the businessman, the great father, the guy who does so much outside of the basketball court, because I'm going to use a Stephen A. Smith line to make sure people don't think I'm hating. But that's going to happen tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
He's the big dog of the NBA.
No, there's only 2 big dogs in the world, and one of them is Roman Reigns, and the other one is Doc Ocean. They are the big dog!
Wow.
Running the show. Herding the pack.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would be interested to see that. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. But I guess predictions for tonight, I think I've already kind of given mine. Do you think the Cavs can overcome tonight?
Tonight would be a much closer game than game 2. But I had them sweeping, so the Warriors going to win. The Warriors going to win by at least between 8 to 12 points tonight.
Gotcha. I agree. I don't know if it's going to be 8 to 10. Like I said, I think you're going to see the Cavs come out hot. I would expect LeBron to come out shooting threes, which, I've been on record also to say, listen, you cannot go back.
Wait. Hold on, sir. Jimmy Kimmel, because, this is for the NBA Countdown. I'm looking at it right now. He walked out wearing the same suit or a similar suit as LeBron James. And for those that are uninitiated and unaware, LeBron James for the past 2 games has been entering the stadium pre-game in a suit that has shorts for the slacks. This is what Jimmy Kimmel is wearing, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't even have any words for that.
I got nothing. I got nothing at all. I really don't.
I mean, and people have been going on record to say that it's an expensive outfit, but
$41,000.
It just doesn't look good to me. I don't
But
know.
the $41,000 is more the bag that he was carrying than the actual suit themselves.
Gotcha. That's crazy.
But let's talk X Factors though. Let's finish the rest of the predictions for this one so we can get to end game. Who are your X Factors for this game? Give me an X Factor for both teams, sir.
I'm gonna go with, if he plays tonight, Andre Iguodala. Being rested. Apparently, he's been healthy for 2 weeks, apparently, and he's making his finals debut. So him being healthy and really fresh is gonna make a huge difference. And I think on the Cavs, although Kevin Love has been playing great, I would expect to see a little more from Kyle Korver, who's disappeared in these playoffs. I would expect for him to show up and play a little better as my X factor.
I can agree with that. I was actually gonna say Andre Iguodala. I didn't really hear any news about whether or not he'll be playing tonight or not.
It just came across the ticker.
Oh, thank you. We got breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. But actually, I just got that as well too. So I think he could be a great factor towards the decision of the game. My other X factor for the Cavaliers side, I'm gonna say it has to be Kevin Love. He needs to score over 30 tonight to help out with LeBron James. LeBron James is gonna get over 30. And if Kevin Love get over 30 as well too, they can make it a game that way. But I can't put it on anyone else right now because the system doesn't allow them to succeed.
This is true. I agree.
And that's not me being biased. It's just the system doesn't work for them. It doesn't. And I watch many of videos, and in fact, I got upset with Coach from B-Ball Breakdown. Shout out to B-Ball Breakdown. Check out their content because how much he was trying to allow people or make people sympathize with LeBron James for the past 2 games. But the fact that he started to go into more breakdown about why Kyle Korver is such a factor towards their success, and the fact that they only ran 2 plays where he's actually in motion to allow things to happen and generate for the offense is a shame, and that's a travesty. But we also have our poll results. Yes, we have poll results on our Facebook page. Make sure you check us out, facebook.com/debateamongstfriends, where we are at a split between who's going to win tonight. We have 3 for the Golden State Warriors and 3 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. One of those people is yourself, sir.
And I picked, first I think I really was trying to click on the picture to see if it would expand, and I wasn't really thinking about the actual poll. So initially it looked as though I chose the Cavs, but I really chose the Warriors.
and you did, and that's fine. And that's what it shows that you voted for. But we're gonna do a little bit more of these polls. Just asking random things for people. So if you see it on your timeline, or you see it if you're looking at the page, just give it a click. You never know. Maybe we'll call you on the show one day to give us your actual opinion about things.
I think that would be cool.
But, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are at endgame. In fact, we finished a lot sooner than we needed to. So let's go into some final thoughts. Doc, take it away.
I think the final thought for me, I think I mentioned it last week also, but maybe it was just on the social media. But watching All In with the Dallas Cowboys, I just finished it. It was on Amazon Prime, still there. I can say that I completely understand why the Dallas Cowboys cut Dez Bryant. I think he took wearing the number 88 to heart, and he tried to embody everything that Michael Irvin was. But his attitude, his behavior during film sessions and in meetings, it's hard for a coach to focus on trying to game plan, focus on trying to get people prepared when you have a guy in the room who, everybody else feels like, he's supposed to be the guy, but it seems like Dez would have been a great player if he had a veteran. So let's say he was drafted by the Cardinals and he was playing with, Larry Fitzgerald. Would have been perfect for him. But because he came in and he had to be the guy, sure, he might have had Miles Austin for a little bit, but Miles Austin was never a number one receiver. So I think he struggled with that because he never had that guidance. But it's just something about it. And if you get a chance, definitely take a look. It's definitely an interesting documentary. The other thing that did pop up today, and I'm sure people have seen on Bleacher Report, apparently Bleacher Report feels that maybe the Raptors will split up DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, as we mentioned. And some of the teams that they've put on here as landing spots are your New York Knicks, the San Antonio Spurs, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Miami Heat, and the Charlotte Hornets as some of the teams that may have a packaged deal. But most of them seem pretty ridiculous. For example, the Minnesota Timberwolves would do a straight up trade DeMar DeRozan for Andrew Wiggins. But the one that stuck out to me that seemed kind of one-sided, not so much for Toronto, but more for Charlotte, DeMar DeRozan and Valanciunas for Nicholas Batum, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and Malik Monk. Although I like Monk, and I believe he has some game, I mean, DeMar DeRozan and Valanciunas are pretty set. And I don't know if they would do this, but Valanciunas and Dwight Howard wouldn't be able to play together, so I would be curious to see how that would go. But those are the two final thoughts from myself, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. As always, your final thoughts have been wonderful, to say the least. And you know what? Piggybacking on your Raptors story, the former Raptors head coach Dwayne Casey is a potential candidate for the Detroit Pistons head coaching job.
I did see that, and I think that would be a good fit for him. Again, they're not a terrible team. He would have guys who wouldn't quit on him.
Ha 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 ha! That's hilarious, actually. And you're right though, but he has Blake Griffin there too, and we all know how overrated he is. But that goes without saying.
I don't think Blake would quit though. He might be, he might be a pansy, but I don't think he would quit.
He might be trash. The new Debate Amongst Friends trash T-shirt. Make sure you pick it up on teesprings.com/store/Debate Amongst Friends.
But he won't quit.
Won't quit, but he give you that TRASH. But my other final thought is more of a saddened final thought. Legendary 49ers. So if you're a 49ers fan, I'm pretty sure you know about this already. But Dwight Clark lost his battle with ALS earlier this week. And in fact, his wife actually posted something out on his Twitter account at DwightC87, which says, "I'm heartbroken to tell you that today I lost my best friend and husband. He passed peacefully, surrounded by many of the people he loved most. I am thankful for all of Dwight's friends, teammates, and 49er fans who have sent their love during his battle with ALS. Kelly Clark." So, for myself, the doc, and everyone else here at Business Amongst Friends, we want to send our condolences to Dwight's family and friends, and a great man. He is the person behind. He is one of the people behind the iconic The Catch against the Dallas Cowboys for the NFC Championship, and he's a Super Bowl champion as well too. So he will be missed.
Absolutely.
And if y'all thought I was gonna end on a downer, you're wrong. I have one more. This actually happened I believe, late last week, so I didn't really have a chance to talk about it, but this is from FGC. And it was an interesting little video. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, sir, but it was talking about one of the well-known commentators, Persia. She usually commentates for like Marvel vs. Capcom games. And she was just talking about her experience going to an FGC event for the very first time. And it was actually really interesting. It was kind of funny too, in a cute way, where she basically had to take a bus to get there, and the bus was like, terrible to drive into, and she packed up some snacks and she ended up having food poisoning, and the world sucked and life sucked, and by the time she actually got to the venue, it didn't really matter, because like as soon as she walked into the door, like everything felt better again. Because she was able to engage with people, she was able to play, see how the FGC is, and that's one of the things that you even talked about with your experience going to Evolution, which is a mystery for the first time.
It is a mystery.
Like as soon as you get there for that first time, it's just that wonder. And that's just some of the things that people just don't understand as far as like esports and FGC and just competitive video gaming. It's just there's something magical, and it's like when we was younger, going to like a WWF event when it was WWF at the time, or going to like a football game. Like there's just a Marvel baby. There's just something marvelous about being there live and seeing everything there and seeing the players that you follow for so long. So it was a great little video. It'll make you smile. It'll make your day real quickly. So if you are on the Day Amongst Friends Facebook page, we have it posted out on there, and show us some love as well too. But
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gonna bid you all farewell. Tonight's track is by Gizmo, from his brand new album, actually, Tokyo Ronin. Name of the track is Smooth Love. It just came out actually May 31st, 2018. So make sure you check him out. We put the link to his Bandcamp site in the description of the YouTube channel. Make sure you support the artist. Also, big shout outs to Coop Dog for being our intro track. 100 plus episodes right now, and looking forward to be 100 plus more possibly. But you can also catch us offline right here on YouTube. You can also catch us on SoundCloud. You can catch us on Google Plus Music. You can catch us on iTunes. You can catch us on Player FM and any and all podcast application on your iOS and Android devices. But I am your host, the Professor John Gotti.
And this is Dr. Wednesday Night himself.
And we'll catch you every single Wednesday evening right here on YouTube. And as we always say, goodbye, mwah, and good night. Bang!
Taste the ocean.
Yo, Bible says love your neighbor like you love yourself. My neighbor don't love me. Do good to them even if it hurts your health. Warm heart for your enemies. Matthew Trippin 2017 been telling me, trust no bitch, trust no nigga. People only rocking with you when their self-interest. Cynicism in this pessimist. I let it go though. I'm a fam who don't care to keep in touch. History blood, I shed it all, let it flow slow. Shake it up, visions from my crystal ball slowly fall. Future cold like a snow globe. Swear to God I hear God is love. I see love in evolution too. A callous heart, love is dissonance. This is the love I came to give to you. Everybody need that love unconditional, beyond something physical, that reign indivisible. In the stage that is digital, love the last miracle. Yeah. when my mom's left me as a youth. Growing up, I didn't know her. Pop shipped me out and left wounds that rain heavy on my heart like Noah's Ark. Torn apart, I know neither of them now. Start to forgive, stubbornness won't let it happen. Surreal. Yo, love God, love the earth, love the father, love the mother, love siblings that we share, love yourself, love each other, love the places that you haven't been yet, love every day, every sunrise, sunset, love all the struggles faced, they only make you better, it cannot be measured, love like a vendetta, cause once you live a life of all love, it reciprocates back, love what we made of. We dream of, it's the strong it's the strong. Everybody need that love unconditional, beyond something physical, that reign indivisible. In the stage that is digital, love the last miracle. We dream of, it's the strong that we love, it's the strong we dream of, it's the strong that we love.